Greetings. Today is Tuesday, July 23, 2024. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia. In this video, I would like to provide an update on the atmospheric conditions in the Atlantic region, as the Atlantic has been inactive for several weeks. This is thanks to an unfavorable phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation, which has created conditions that are not conducive to cyclone formation. There is a high probability that we will not see cyclonic development for the rest of July. However, some significant changes in atmospheric conditions are approaching. These changes, combined with warm ocean temperatures, should create extremely favorable conditions for cyclonic activity to increase significantly during August. Additionally, I wanted to mention that after a period of inactivity in the eastern Pacific region, it is very likely that we will see the development of several cyclones over the next 2 weeks. Although they are currently anticipated to track westward over the open waters of the Pacific, I will soon be recording a video to discuss the indirect effects they could have along Mexico's western coast. In the meantime, let's look at the infrared satellite animation. We can see that in the main cyclonic development region, there is little thunderstorm and rain activity due to dry and stable air conditions dominating the weather in this region. We do see some rainfall and thunderstorm activity related to the intertropical convergence zone. But for now, we have no cyclonic threats, and no cyclones are anticipated in the next 7 days. However, we anticipate that this will change in the coming weeks, and although the increase is expected after the second week of August, we cannot rule out the development of a cyclone in early August. To a large extent, the unfavorable conditions for cyclone formation are also due to high concentrations of Saharan dust moving across the tropical Atlantic. This dust has been affecting air quality throughout the Caribbean and other areas in the southern United States. Remember that these Saharan dust events are completely normal for July, which is why July is historically one of the least active months in terms of cyclonic activity. But as happens every year, Saharan dust concentrations should decrease during August as we approach the peak of the season. This is why the period from August 15th to the end of October is when we typically see a considerable increase in cyclonic activity across the tropical Atlantic. For at least the next 7 to 10 days, Saharan dust will continue over the Atlantic, with several Saharan dust events moving from West Africa to the west, impacting the Caribbean region, Mexico, Central America, and the southern United States. Therefore, cyclonic formation will be quite difficult for the rest of July. However, by early August, the concentration of Saharan dust should begin to decrease dramatically. Remember that the frequency of Saharan dust events is also related to an unfavorable phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation for cyclonic and rainfall formation in the Atlantic region. This is identified by the reddish colors in this image. You can see that the entire Atlantic and the Caribbean Sea are dominated by stable air that converges at high levels of the atmosphere, making it difficult for rain and low-pressure systems to form. The current phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation promotes cyclonic activity in the western Pacific region, where a typhoon is currently affecting Taiwan. This energy of the Madden-Julian oscillation will continue to move slowly eastward over the next few weeks. By early August, it should be crossing over the Atlantic and eventually moving over Africa and the Indian Ocean, leaving much more favorable conditions in the Atlantic starting from the second week of August. Not only will the energy of this phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation move over the Atlantic and Africa, but once it establishes in the region, it is anticipated to remain stationary throughout the entire month of August. In particular, look at these intense blue colors over Africa and the Indian Ocean starting from the second week of August. It is precisely during this period that we anticipate a dramatic increase in cyclonic activity. Additionally, unfortunately, sea surface temperatures across the main cyclonic development region continue to be near record highs, and projections indicate that these waters should continue warming over the next few weeks. In general, due to the trade winds between the Caribbean and Africa remaining below normal, represented by red colors in this image. This is concerning because it is very likely that this area of the tropical Atlantic will continue to warm over the next few weeks as we approach the peak of the season. This change that we anticipate during the month of August can initially be seen in the first 2 weeks where, in green, we see an increase in rain activity related to the intertropical convergence zone and the monsoon trough of the African continent. However, as this transition to more favorable development conditions occurs, the eastern Pacific region is very likely to see a significant increase in cyclonic activity, with several cyclones expected to form over the next 10 days. Eventually, during the second and third weeks of August, notice that conditions become much more favorable for the Atlantic region, as the energy of the Madden-Julian oscillation moves across the Atlantic and then reaches the African region. This increase in cyclonic activity can be analyzed in the European model projections. During the first week of August, it shows up to 20% more cyclonic activity in the eastern Pacific, while the Atlantic region has less activity than usual. The same occurs during the second week of August, where the Eastern Pacific remains very active and the Atlantic inactive. However, see how this changes for the third week of August, where we begin to see more cyclonic activity. The model projects more cyclonic activity in the Atlantic basin for the third and fourth weeks of August. Although it seems that the most cyclonic activity should begin during the third and fourth weeks of August, the sea surface temperatures are so warm that we cannot rule out seeing some cyclone development during the first 2 weeks of August, especially near the Bahamas or the Western Caribbean Sea, where conditions may be a bit more favorable compared to what we currently have in the region between the Caribbean and Africa. This is why the NOAA Climate Prediction Center has marked the region east of the Lesser Antilles, parts of the Caribbean Sea, and the Bahamas as an area with a 20% to 40% probability of cyclone formation during the first week of August. And although this probability remains low, from the beginning of August we will definitely be closely monitoring several tropical waves that will come out of Africa. Although at the moment any chance of development will be low during the first week of August, I want you to see some long-term projections that show there is a possibility of seeing the development of a low pressure near the Bahamas in early August. For example, in the latest run, the European model develops a tropical cyclone for the end of July and early August. However, it is important to mention that other models are not showing development but do have a strong tropical wave moving through the region in about 7 days. So we will be monitoring the evolution of this projection to see if other models join this idea. In general, also note that some members of the European model develop a low pressure near the Greater Antilles or the Bahamas in about 7 to 10 days, representing a 10% to 15% probability of a tropical depression developing in this area. Again, these probabilities are low at the moment, and for now, we have no reasons to worry. But this is an indication of the changes that are approaching during the month of August. In conclusion, we do not anticipate cyclonic development in the Atlantic for the next 7 days. First, the Eastern Pacific region will see cyclonic activity, and during August, we will begin to see a transition to very favorable development conditions. Although it seems that between the second and third weeks of August is when we will have very favorable development conditions, we cannot rule out that some tropical wave moving westward could find favorable development conditions in the southwestern Atlantic region. In the coming days, we will continue to monitor the model projections to inform you of any changes that arise in the forecasts. To make sure you don't miss any of the videos I will be recording during this hurricane season, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. Go to the bottom of the video, click the red button that says subscribe, and then click the bell to receive notifications when I record new videos. Now I bid you farewell until the next video, where I will talk about the cyclonic activity we anticipate in the Eastern Pacific over the coming days. Thank you.